Oh.
We're both scared together then.
Right, so on the Tim Marner Podcast Show today, I've got my friend Jue Snell on.
Hello.
Hello, Joe.
Hello.
Hello, Jue.
Hello.
I'm not quite sure where to start and how to start this off. I think what I'd like to do is just kind of, what were you like before? Oh. How do I want to start it off? Because I want to know, because obviously I didn't know you before, did I?
No.
Before your accident?
No.
I didn't know before your accident. So tell me, what were you like before the accident?
So I think I was very much still the person that I am now, still quite bubbly, quite outgoing. I think the big difference is I had a very corporate career that I worked really hard, worked up the ladder to, and I was really proud of that. In my head, I always had this thing that I wanted to show the girls, that you could be a mum, you could have a really good career, you can be in a relationship, you can have nice things, but your work ethic's really good. Always quite adventurous, always a bit of a balloon, so...
Nothing changed then, really.
Changed
at all, apart from you had a very sort of businesswoman mindset.
Yeah, it's really funny because when I had my accident, two things that my mum and dad have said to me that have just stuck with me forever. So the first thing was, when I had my accident, I had a company car. It was lovely. It was like really chuffed when I was driving it. Thought, I've done this.
Yeah.
And then when I couldn't drive it because I couldn't use my hand, it was a manual car. My mum said to me, was it really worth it? Look, you've got a car outside. It's really lovely, but it's getting taken away next week because, one, you can't drive it until you're not at work. So is it really worth it, everything that you put and sacrifice? Because you do sacrifice a lot of stuff. And the other thing was, my dad said to me, after obviously the shock of the accident, he went, he said, it's so good, I feel like I've got my little girl back now because that work bitch isn't there. I was like,
really?
Cheers, Dad. Thanks for that bit of
So
honesty.
knowing to you have been different. In fact, you're quite a bit different.
I think that...
Your outlook on life?
Yeah, outlook on life is totally different. I think that when you're in that corporate world and you probably have a job with responsibility, you kind of let that define you. And I used to think my job was the definition and what I did was the definition of who I am. And when that gets taken away, it chucks you into a very dark place, because you then start questioning, who am I? Who is this person now that's not in that corporate world, that doesn't walk around in power suits, that doesn't, I don't have a plan because I didn't know what was around the corner. And I was like, shit, what am I doing? Like I've told you before, that I went through a phase of, I didn't know how to dress. So I went through a phase of going downstairs in my suits and my high heels.
Right, let's take it back first, right? Because obviously we've had this conversation, right? So we're going to start at the accident.
Okay.
Right, and what actually happened.
Yeah.
So take me through it, what the day was like and what was going on.
So very typical day. I used to work out of Nottingham and Bolton.
Yeah.
So on this particular day, I was working in one of the offices in Nottingham, and there was an accident on the A50 getting to Nottingham, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be late for this meeting that I had booked in. It was quite an important meeting. So I did, rushed into the office, got everything out, got everything that I needed, had to sign in because I had to reply to an email, went to plug my laptop in, and where the plug was, you couldn't see that side of it had been smashed off. And when I put my hand to plug my laptop in, my hand attached to the live wires. And what should happen is that it should shut you off straight away. So when you touch a domestic supply, it should shut you off, and this didn't. It carried on electrocuting me, in a sense.
Are you getting electrocuted in silence?
Yeah. And it's not what you think. When you think of someone being electrocuted, you think like like I've got a vision in my head now of hair sticking on end and like smoke coming out, and you kind of like this shaking thing, and that's totally the opposite of what happened. It was very silent, me thinking, holy shit, I can't get my hand off. And that's what I can remember thinking. So I can remember consciously thinking I can't take my hand away off it.
Are you thinking you're going to die?
At that point, I didn't think I was. But after lots of therapy...
How long were you attached for?
I can't even tell you. It felt
the people
like
around you know what was going on? Or did they just think, oh, you just trying to find the...
People didn't know until after, because after it chucked me, I managed to get my hand off it and it chucked me back, and
How did you manage to get off it?
I don't know. It just... I remember trying to pull and pull and pull and pull, and I don't know whether it just got to the point where the circuit just stopped, or I don't know. And I remember getting myself off, and I remember sitting there, and in my face I could feel like all the like electrical like current in my face, in my chest started going tight, and the first thing that I did was throw up. And I remember running to the toilet, and I was just violently sick everywhere. And then I come back, and a couple of people that had noticed that something had happened, and they'd got the first aiders ready for me. So then when they saw me, then they called paramedics, and the paramedics came into the office, and they were worried that I was going to have a heart attack, because when you get electrocuted, apparently it affects your nerves or your heart. So they were obviously wanting to make sure that I'd either, because I'd had chest pains, I'd either not
Can you
had
talk
a heart
at this point?
attack. Yeah, I remember talking, but I remember being very like jittery. I think I was in, if I'm honest with you, I think I was in total, excuse the pun, shock. Total shock, because it's not something that you expect to happen. You know, I don't know, it's weird, because if I was in a factory and I was working with like things that could cause injury, you're probably more guarded, aren't you, to the fact that you might get hurt, so you probably, your guard is up. I was just getting ready to go into a meeting, so you know, I had no guard there, because I was just getting on with my day. So then the paramedics took me to Nottingham, and they were happy. They'd probably done about 6 ECGs then, so they were happy that I wasn't going to have a heart attack, and I hadn't had a heart attack. But my hand started feeling really funny, so I had like pins and needles in it, and I just thought it was the remnants of the feeling of being electrocuted. And I remember them saying to me, you know, it doesn't look right, but we're acute care, so we're looking if you're going to have a heart attack. We're happy. You're not at home. This isn't your place of home. If it's bad tomorrow, go to your local hospital. It's like, right, okay. Gets home. I'd text my husband now, Mike. I texted him and I'd said, like, something's happened at work.
Just like that.
I've been electrocuted. And he was like, what the fuck? What do you mean? Because it's like, you just don't expect it. So he was panicking, and I was like, my mum and dad were watching the youngest and watching the kids. And I was like, I'm not going to tell my mum and dad, because what can they do? They can't do anything. They just didn't want to panic anyone. And I remember getting home, and by that time Mike was on his way home from work. And I remember opening the door to my dad, and my dad looked at me and he went, what the hell has happened to you?
What do you mean?
And he said, you were white. You was totally, there was just no colour in your face. And I honestly...
So from going to going to the hospital, you came out the same day?
Came out the same day.
Shit.
I couldn't drive home properly, but all I wanted to do was just go home.
Right.
All I wanted to do was just get home. And I do definitely think it's that fight or flight thing in you, that I had that adrenaline that I just needed to get home.
Yeah. And obviously you didn't want to really admit that
there
was something wrong with you and stuff.
Yeah. And I remember, like, my dad was like, my God, what's happened to you? And I walked in, and Mike, like, by that time, Mike went in, he was like, right, have you ate something? And I was like, no. And I was shaking, and he was like, just get something to eat. And I just threw up all over myself in the front room with the kids there, my mum and dad there, Mike there. And it's like when your body goes into that fight or flight. And I don't know whether I'd just got home, and because I'd felt safe, your body just then releases all the adrenaline and everything that's in there. And then it just kind of started from there, really. It just went bad to worse from that moment.
So tell me.
So the next day, I started getting blisters and like really red and angry, swollen hand. And we went to hospital and they were like, all right, okay, my God, what have you done? This is like high voltage electrocution. And I was like, no, it's not. And they just couldn't work out why it looked like it did. So then it was like, right, okay, elevate it, keep it up. Next day, if it's no better, come to hospital. We might have to send you to Wythenshawe to the burns unit there. So I was like, right, okay. So the next day, me and my dad went, and by this point, my dad was fuming. He was just like, that the whole thing had happened. Right. So he was like, you know, what has happened to where you wanted to get to the nitty-gritty of everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And the hospital at Trafford said, we're not happy with this. So they referred me got sent to Wythenshawe straight away. And then next minute I was at Wythenshawe having all these nerve conduction tests on my hands because they said that the nerves had been fried, they thought, and it was causing massive problems because at that point there was a certain number of fingers that I couldn't move, and I was getting pins and needles and it felt like it was burning. And they were like, this really isn't right. But they didn't quite know what was happening to it. So we went home, and then I had to go back the next day, and kind of like lots of different people were trying to figure out what had happened, and all of them kept saying, you know, this shouldn't have happened on a domestic supply. This is like actually really bad. And then they started questioning the nerves. It had kind of really started to attack the nerves in my hand. So they reckoned that because I had little fingers and little wrists and little hands, that the current was so strong that it affected everything. So everything started kind of deteriorating really quickly. So then they got this professor to come and see me. Now by this point, and this is like probably in the space of 2 weeks of going to hospital every day, them trying to do stuff, things weren't working. I went to see her in the morning, and she looked at my hand, and my hand was starting to go blue and mockly.
What does that mean?
Well, I just was like, this just isn't right. She looked at it and she was like, right, okay, I think your medium nerve, because you have a nerve that goes like up through. I keep wanting to show you with that, but it's not on. You have like a medium nerve that goes up through there, and sometimes if they release some of the pressure in it can stop the tingling, stop it from going blue. And she was like, listen, this is actually could get really serious if we don't do this operation. So I know you've come to see me for a consultation now, but I'm going to get you into theatre in an hour and a half. And I was like, right, okay. It's just like rung Michael, and I was like, right, they're gonna take me into theatre. And he was like, fucking hell, right, okay. So he come like from work.
Are you thinking at that point, look, there's something seriously wrong? At what point did you?
At that point, I thought they seemed quite panicked by it.
Yeah. It's to get you in
and
an
I
hour.
thought that's like, for them to turn around and say, listen, you know, this is pretty serious now, we need to get you straight into theatre. It doesn't usually happen. So they did what they needed to do, and then I was in a cast for about 2 or 3 weeks. Now, in that point of it being in a cast, all I remember was feeling like a burning sensation, and the touch of the cast on the skin was really sensitive, so it felt like it was like glass, like rubbing against the skin.
Explain to me. I mean,
so,
the thing is with you, because your pain threshold's just like, for you to say, how bad are we talking?
At that point, it was starting to feel like it was in burning oil. So if you can imagine like putting your skin very near a chip fat pan, like in the old school, like like your grands used to have them, just like kind of touching the top of that. So that's what it felt like. So I knew all the time. So I knew that it wasn't normal, but I didn't know what was happening because nobody said what was happening. So yeah, it wasn't a nice time because you're kind of dealing with the unknown, really. And then when they took the cast off, my dad come with me, and this is one of the memories that I can never ever take away. This memory, and it's one that makes me really, really sad. Out of everything that's happened, it's this memory that really gets to me. And they took the cast off, and when they took the cast off, the fact that they scraped it against the skin for it to come off, it was like it was going through a window, like it was going through broken glass. That's the only way that I can describe it. And when they went, I had all dried blood and everything over my hand, and when they put a wet paper towel on it to wipe the blood off, I have never screamed in my life like I did then. And it was like someone had got a share of glass and just gone like that and gone into it and just kept doing it. That's what it felt like. And then it just like kind of went and just like radiated. So like it had gone from like being in a little bit of chip fat to just the whole thing being in and submerged in burning oil. So as I was reacting in the way that I was reacting, I remember my dad just like in the door frame there, just this, and he's a big guy from Salford. My dad is like, he's not. He's not like a soft. Yeah, he totally is. And he was just crying, just stood in the doorway, just crying, while all the nurses were like, right, we need to get this guy out of theatre. The professor needs to get out of theatre. We need to get this pain management guy in. And the next minute, we had all these people in, and they were like, right, okay, we think you've got something called CRPS, but don't research it. Whatever you do not research it. Don't get any of your family members to research it. This is what we think you've got. The less you know about it, the better.
What?
And I was like,
I don't even understand that.
Right, okay. So basically, this condition is called CRPS, which is Complex Regional Pain Syndrome. And it's quite a rare condition. And there's two types of it. So there's type 1, which you could potentially fall over, hurt your ankle, and could develop CRPS. The other one, which is the most severe, is through an injury or a trauma. And because I had such a big nerve injury, I got it like really severely. So they were like, this is really bad already. So we need to get you under pain consultants. We need to get you under hand therapy. We need to go through this whole desensitisation, mirror therapy, physio, and then we're not quite sure if it's going to work. Did
work know what was going on?
They did, but I think they didn't understand it. They didn't understand it at all. So I think their tactic was we'll probably just not deal with it. Yeah. And it'll eventually go away. Yeah. At some point. Which was hard. Yeah. That kind of messed me up a little bit, because from something that you're so committed to and you've made personal sacrifices for them to have that tactic is really harsh. So it just kind of carried on from there, really. So I remember from that moment being at the hospital probably 4 times a week, having different things happening, and it would get worse.
What sort of pain medication are you
on? So first I was on something called gabapentin, which is like it's like a nerve tablet. Mm-hmm. And then I was on morphine.
Shit.
And kind of every day, yeah. So I used to take tablets.
Is this stopping the pain?
At the time, when I look back now, I think no. But at that point, I didn't know what was happening to me. So I just wanted to take anything that would kind of help. I did go. They were really good actually with Insure, because they picked. They got me really quickly to see a trauma psychologist. Yeah. So she was based at the burns unit with Insure.
What's a trauma psychologist?
So she worked for the burns unit. Yeah. So basically, anybody who'd had an injury would be picked up by her. Mm-hmm. So the way she helped me was, it was very acute. So it was very, this is what I couldn't comprehend what was happening to me in my head. It didn't make sense because it wasn't logical. You know, it wasn't right, you've got an appendicitis, so we know you've got that, so you'll have that operation and that's it, you'll recover from it. From this, there was no definite route of plan of where it was going to go. Nobody kind of knew how it was going to work out, and everyone kind of was just seeing how it was going to go. But I'd have to have all the treatments every day. So I struggled a lot with how to deal with that, how to deal with being in pain all the time. Really,
how do you deal with that?
I had like an hour by hour strategy.
Yeah.
So my strategy was get through that hour, right, done that, get through that next hour.
Did she tell you to do that?
No, I did that because it was the only way that I could deal, because the thought of having it like that until God knows what time was just too much. So I used to go, right, okay, it's 9 o'clock now, get to 10 o'clock, yeah, 10 o'clock, right, get to 11. And some might say you're kind of wishing your life away, but at that point it was a pain strategy and it worked because it was just something to focus on.
It sounds nuts to me, that.
It's horrible.
I just go through an hour of pain and then I can do another hour of pain.
Yeah, but then I really struggled with how it changed me, because I went from being really independent and really, not like in a independent in a I'll do everything by myself, but I was really capable of everything that I was doing. I was capable, you know, of being a mum. We used to do all sorts with the kids, and I was very hands-on. And I went from being like that to I couldn't drive, I couldn't go out of the house, because if I went out of the house and it was windy, the wind hitting my arm would feel like it'd be going through glass. I couldn't interact with the kids because no one could touch my arm properly. So when Boo was a baby and I was having to change nappies, it was really difficult, or wanting to put her to bed. And, you know, when Holly was, you know, she was going through the last stages of primary school, and she wanted me to be like the hands-on mum that I always was, and suddenly you can't be that. And I used to get really angry and really beat myself up about not being able to do those things, and everyone's trying to help you and you don't want anybody's help because you should be able to do it yourself. And so she kind of helped me deal with all that, you know, the identity thing. You lose who you are, you lose your identity, and it's shocking. It really is, to go from one extreme to the polar opposite of what you're used to in every way. I used to think I was failing with Mike, you know, because he didn't sign up for all that crap, and I'm dragging him through all this, and everything then becomes quite self-absorbed with how are you going to deal with this situation, right? You've got somebody's birthday, how are you going to go there physically when you can't go in a car because the vibrations of the car are hurting your arm too much? So this kind of carried on for months and months, and then
through them, if you don't want me asking,
yeah,
did you think about ending it at any point in that? What's it? What was your strength, the kids and Mike?
Yeah.
Because we're talking like the worst pain.
Yeah.
That anyone can ever imagine.
Yeah. And it's funny because they have like a pain guide. It's like a scale really of pain, and you have like natural childbirth, no medication, self amputations up here, and then CRPS is like up here. It's
self amputation.
Yeah. It's one of the worst things that you can get. I never thought about ending it because I had too much to live for. I never did the why me neither, because it just wasn't productive to do that. It just wouldn't have given me anything. that I didn't know already. There's no point going, why me, when...
But have you done this yourself again, or is it working with a trauma therapist?
No, I did that myself, but I think that's maybe a little bit of my personality that I've never really...
Lost.
Been
You've
like
always been
that.
like that.
I've always been quite... strong and quite positive to deal with things. So I never got like that. I remember them saying to me, I remember the pain specialist saying to me that it was getting really bad and they needed to take me into hospital and they didn't know how it was going to go. But the intention was they were going to take me in for a week to 10 days. They were going to do an operation where they would put it's called a plexus block, and they would operate while she was awake. So it's quite, they do it under guided scans, and they paralyse your arm.
Fuck that.
Yeah, they paralyse your arm because at one point it was like that and it was stuck and the skin was falling off it and my nails were falling off.
So is basically your arm dying?
Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. I remember, I'm digressing now, but I've just got a memory then of it was summer once and everyone would come round to sit outside. I don't know whether it was someone's birthday or what. And I was like, I can't sit outside because it's dead windy and it's hurting so much. And I used to try and be dead brave when people were there. And Mike was like, right, we're going to do something about this. And he built me a box. And I literally would sit outside with my arm in this box so the wind couldn't get to it. And, just so you could feel a part of something. Anyway, they took me in to have this operation. And they said it was going to be horrific and the pain was going to be really bad and they were going to try and reset my arm, and whilst it was paralysed they were going to try and work on it.
I don't even want to hear this story. Go on.
And they didn't know how it was going to go, but we had to kind of trust them really to know what was happening. So we went into hospital and they took me in theatre. And the guy who was my pain specialist was a bit of a maverick as well. So he was a little bit on his ego. He wanted to be the person who would cure this CRPS, which was so bad and so aggressive. But then I think he was just a bit of a maverick anyway into trying new things. And I kind of sometimes felt like I was a little bit of a, a little bit of a test for him.
The guinea pig.
Yeah, a little bit. So we come into theatre and he was like, right, okay. And they were doing this. I was in theatre for quite a long time. And then awake, yeah. And they're like, I can remember him saying, all right, there's the main artery and we'll not go near that. And I was sat there thinking, fucking hell, please don't go near that.
So they got Mike's box.
Honestly. and then I come out. And they'd managed to, from it being like that, they'd managed to put it in a neutral position. But they did that whilst I was awake, so you could hear the bones moving. It was it was gross. And then I got back to the ward and Mike was there. And I remember going, oh my God, look what I can't do. And I picked my arm up with this hand, forgetting that it was paralysed, and I had this massive cast on the bottom of it, and my arm just went poof like that and hit me in the face. And I had this big bruise on my nose, and Mike was such a dick.
Oh my God.
Anyway, after a couple of hours it started failing, the pain started coming back.
Was it pain relief for a bit?
Yeah, I couldn't feel anything, but that should have lasted for 3 days, and I got 2 hours. And by this point, they were this should not be happening. They were pumping this stuff in me to try and get it paralysed again, and it just wasn't happening. So then the next day I was in theatre. They did the same thing again. Come out of theatre, an hour later, it started to paralyse my face and everything up there, so my face started drooping, and it just wasn't working again. It had worn off. Then the next day, they got me into theatre again. It started leaking out my chest. So they had to do...
What do you mean it was leaking out your chest?
So I had because they were trying to do it in different places, I had these holes from previous operation.
Right, yeah, go on.
So I had a water leaking out of the site, which was obviously the jugs that they use to paralyse your arm. So we got the nurses in and they ended up having to do a little mini operation there. So as they were trying to resite it and pump medication in, it was flying out of this hole that was in my chest. And Mike was like, Jesus Christ, it was horrible to see. And then in between that, they were then trying to do physio, so I was on like gas and air, and while they were trying to, and just like people took it was just, it was horrible. It was really horrible. And then after that, a pain specialist come in and said, listen, this is incurable.
What?
And now he said, you're at the stage of CRPS where there's nothing they can do. It's incurable.
So he's Maverick's giving it up.
Yeah, Maverick's like, the only way we can do this now is pain relief.
What did you think?
So I was like, right, okay. And it's funny because my mum was there, and my mum's a bit of a tough cookie like me, so she was like, right, kind of taking it all in. Mike's sister was there. She got really upset. She was just like, I can't believe this is happening. And I was sat there and I genuinely was like, right, okay, I'm glad to know that you've told me that, because at least now I know what I'm dealing with. I know that you're not going to be trying all these daft things now. There's not going to be that hope where it's going to miraculously get better. And I know now in my head what I need to deal with now. So I think from a mental perspective, I felt better him saying that, because I'd rather have that than them going, oh, we'll keep trying and we'll keep trying, and you're kind of setting yourself up
just like,
for something that's not going to happen. So then he went, right, okay, so we need to go on opiate medication now.
Fucking hell.
So I was like, right, okay. So he said, I'm just going to start you on some ketamine. So he gave me this ketamine, and I remember just like kind of flying back into my, like I remember being sat up and then just going back and being like, oh my God.
Absorbed into the room.
And then I were kind of like vaguely remember some conversations that were happening about it being horse tranquilizer, and I was like, that's ridiculous, that's not what it is. And obviously it is. And then I come out of hospital for that week with ketamine, liquid ketamine, in a massive bottle that I had, and I used to have it probably about 4 or 5 times a day. I was on tablet morphine, I was on liquid morphine, I was on gabapentin, I was on these tablets called naproxen, which were like a massive anti-inflammatory.
Every single day?
I was on, yeah, every single day. So I think we counted at one point that I was taking like 40 tablets a day with all the different liquids in as well. And at the time I thought, that's what I'm being told to do. Oh, Savitex as well. That was another one. So that's like pure marijuana spray. And I thought, right, okay, so do what they're telling me to do. And I could not function.
How long were you on it for?
I'd probably say about 2-3 months on all of that.
And you're just like walking out like a zombie.
I didn't even know what I was doing. I know there was times when like Holly come home from school and I was on the couch because they tried to give me amitriptyline as well, and it made me pass out, and she didn't know what to do, and I was shaking, and she got really upset, and I was like, do you know what, this shouldn't be a memory that my kids are having about me. I don't want them to have that memory.
Can you remember saying that to yourself in your head?
Yeah, I remember saying, this is
even though you're off
happen.
it and you watch it, you remember?
Yeah, I remember saying that. I remember being really paranoid, and your behaviour changes when you're on stuff like that, because you don't know what you're doing, and you've got all the side effects of the meds that you're trying to deal with. It makes you really paranoid, really. Like, I remember becoming really paranoid with Mike, and not convincing myself that he was going to leave me, but I was kind of saying like, oh, this is just go. This is just not for you. It's not for you. And he's like, well, hang on a minute. What have I done there? I've done nothing there. And he was finding it really difficult to cope with and deal with. And he was trying to deal with it himself, and watching me go through everything and having to pick up everything that I couldn't do. And financially, you're struggling because obviously he's losing work because he's having to come to hospitals. He's self-employed with me, and so there was a lot of things coming at us, and then people trying to deal with it in their ways, and some people would get upset and some people wouldn't. Some people would avoid you because they don't know what to say, and it was a very, very strange time. But I remember thinking to myself categorically that being on these tablets and not helping me, it's a hindrance rather than it being help. And the pain was still massive. So if I was on all that and the pain was still massive, they're not doing that much, because if you was on all that, you shouldn't really have any pain. And then that might be something to... That might be like a bargaining tool of, you think, right, what do you take, the pain or your sanity? But there was nothing. So I remember saying to myself, right, tomorrow is the day that I'm not taking tablets, and I do not recommend anybody doing this because it's hideous. But in my head, I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it.
You're on it for 2 to 3 months.
And I stopped everything. All of it.
Cold turkey.
Boom. Stopped it.
What happened?
You know the scene in Trainspotting where he falls through the floor?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is... we used to watch that film, and I used to think, that surely does not happen. Fucking hell, it happens. It was hideous. Like sweating, and it's like your mind's gone.
Did you tell Mike that that's what you're doing? Or did you just
not till probably about a week after, but I think he'd already figured out at that point, and he was like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?
Fucking hell, what a brave move that is. But no advice off anybody, you just like, that's
don't ever do, don't wean off it. It's hideous. At one point I remember saying, I want to take my own skin off. I was that itchy, and I wanted to, I was that claustrophobic in myself that I wanted to rip my own skin off. And it's mental, it's crazy. But that is, you think that's what it's like coming off them. What are they doing to you while you're on them, if that's what the consequences of coming off them? Anyway, I kind of weaned off it all, and it eventually did get out of my system. And the pain was no more or no less.
You were just clearing your head.
But I was clearing my head. So then it was like, right, game on now. I am dealing with this.
What are you thinking when you said, I'm dealing with it? What are you thinking?
I'm not going to let this destroy me.
Right.
Yeah, so, and this is where you've kind of got to probably put your big girl pants on, really, and accept that you are going to be in pain.
In the big pants, them, aren't they?
Big pants, yeah. Massive pants. And it is that acceptance that you're going to be in pain, but I wasn't going to let it ruin my life, and I was never going to go down the why me. I was never going to go down this is not how I want my life to be. It was a life. I've got a life. I've got 2 kids. I've got a family. I've got a husband. I'm not going to let it beat me. And then you start coming up with strategies yourself. So distraction strategies are great. So it's fill your day with things to do. Night was always bad for me, because obviously when you're not distracted, so you used to get into a cycle of just not sleeping, and then you get used to not sleeping, and then that was really quite tough. And then
at any point did you sleep?
Probably for an hour, a couple of hours here and there.
But you're never truly asleep, are you?
No. But you get used to it. Your body gets used to it.
Yeah.
And then my arm started going really bad. So it started to look like a bad prosthetic. So if you can imagine, it looked plastic. It was like white, blue, and it started to go through I used to call it the Frostbite Phase, and I still get that now. And that is like when it feels like it's in burning oil, but it feels like frostbite at the same time. And I literally felt like I could get my hand and snap it, snap my fingers off, snap my wrist off. Like when people have gone to Everest and they get that frostbite, that's exactly what in my head it felt like. And it wasn't moving. It wasn't doing anything, really. And I had a very distinctive line of where it started and when it stopped. And it just got worse and worse and worse over time. And we kind of got to the point where there was no more treatments that they could offer me. They could offer me a spinal surgery to have this like spinal cord stimulator, and it's like a kind of pain relief thing, but they said that that wouldn't have worked. It was too far gone for that point, so there was no point trying it. And I remember seeing the pain specialist, and I had all like ulcers on it, so like kind of like flesh wounds started to appear. It'd all gone like really, the skin had gone really crusty, and that it was really weird. And I remember going in and looking at him, and he was shocked from seeing me like 2 weeks previous, and he was like, actually, I think we need to like kind of look at amputation now, and it's not something that I really want to do. Have you thought about it before? Oh, I was at the point where if they hadn't, honestly, I genuinely believe if they hadn't have done it, I'd have probably done it myself. And he's like, but you know, I'm a pain specialist, I'm not a surgeon, and there's always that hope that it could improve, but I think we're getting to the end, so I'm going to book a meeting with a pain specialist, with a professor, and we'll kind of like come up with a bit of a strategy. But by that point it was too late. I was already getting sepsis by that point, so I was becoming really ill. So I had like flu-like symptoms and temperature, couldn't really speak properly, and we went to A&E, and they were like, oh god, right, okay. And then the Professor Lees, which is this amazing professor who works at Wythenshawe, my mum was in hospital with me, and she looked at my mum and she went, has she got a quality of life? And my mum went, she's got nothing. She really hasn't. Everything, it's just taken everything from her. And she looked at me and she went, right, okay, I think we need to get it amputated now. I think we're at that point. You're starting with sepsis. If it goes around your body, it's going to kill you, and we'll take it off anyway. But by that point, it's the infection's gone. So if we take it now, we've got a chance of saving any potential infections. And I was like, yeah, no problem. But they said, but the caveat to it is we don't know whether it'll take the pain away. We don't know if it's going to stop the pain. But now you've got the start of this massive infection, so we need to take it off for that reason. We don't know what it's going to do to the CRPS. Your body could interpret it as another trauma, so it could go worse. We don't know. Are you prepared to take that risk? And I was like, yeah, you need to do it quickly, and I did say to her, I said, I'll do it myself if you don't. And she was like, right, I get it, I totally get where you're at now. And then the day after, I went to see the Ability Centre, which is where it's like a specialised centre for people who've had amputations. Went there, met the team there, met the doctor there, met the counsellor there, had a look at some prosthetics, and they just wanted to get me familiar, I think, with the place. And that's quite a daunting place to go to, because when you go to that one, it's full of like older people who, there's like a few kids there from kids that have had like meningitis and stuff, but the majority of them are older people, so like diabetes, so they've kind of not really, not that they've not taken care of themselves, but there's usually a self-consequence. Yeah. So the mood in there is really like, people have like given up, don't want to be there. Yeah. And it's really hard going into that, thinking, oh my God, right, it's really intimidating. But the people that work there are absolutely amazing people. So they were all in agreement that it was going to get done, and I got a date for in like two weeks' time. That's when the plan.
What's happening at work at this point?
Oh,
do they know?
Yeah, they knew.
They know that you're gonna have to get your arm off and stuff. And
yeah, they knew. Didn't really understand what was happening. Don't think really believed what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Generally managed really badly, which they owned up to that fact that it was managed really badly. But by that point for me, it was too little, too late. They'd done so little that there was nothing that they could do that would make up for how badly it was managed. So I think...
when you're at this point now, how much in debt were you and Mike?
Oh God, we got to the point where we had to borrow probably about 50 grand because it takes a hit on everything. It's like, you know, things that you don't even realise. Like, obviously, I wasn't working at all, but, you know, Mike had to, he was working at Liverpool at the time. He had to give up that contract because he just couldn't commit because of everything that was happening at home. So, you know, people often think, oh God, it was really bad for you. And it's like, actually, it was really bad for all of us because we all had, yeah, it was happening to me, but his career had to take a hold. You know, he was watching his future wife go through all this stuff, all this medical stuff, and we're having to try and deal with the kids and try and make sure that the kids aren't going to end up with some bloody deep-rooted psychological issue in years to come from what they've all seen. And I think from a relationship perspective, it took us as far as we could possibly be with each other, but we chose to not let it break us. And it's probably made us the strongest that you could be, because I think to go through something like that, you've got to you come out of it either one way or another. You know, and then when you're planning on telling people that you're on an amputation as well, it's like, it's crazy.
Well, talk me through the amputation process.
Well,
so, what do? You go in and go, right, okay, we're going to do it there.
Yeah, so they give me a day.
It can't be that.
They give me a day, and it was like, I think 2.5 weeks of when it was going to happen. So all I thought was, right, okay, this is now my strategy. So my strategy is I'm going to ignore me. I know what's happening to me. I've known this was going to happen for a while before anyone even mentioned amputation. I knew it was going to happen because I could tell there was no way it was ever going to recover from it. So I'd kind of already accepted that it was going to happen. What I was worried about was everybody else and how they were going to deal with it. So my youngest was 2. We spoke to nursery and had to get, they give us some books called Amputeddy. So we used to read to her about Amputeddy.
That's pretty
and
cool.
About it is, but it's heartbreaking as well, because you just think, God, I'd never thought, you know, you'd have to be in this position of doing this. So we read that to her, and there was a girl on CBeebies who had, she was born without, I think, her left arm. So we used to say, oh, Mummy's going to have an arm like that, you know, just so she had a visual. And then Mike got a picture of me when we was like on holidays, I think the couple of years before, and photoshopped it with a stump, and we give it to people to have a look at so people could see, because what I didn't want is when someone saw me for the first time, them going, oh my God, and it be all a little bit awkward. And
you're going to get that though, aren't you?
Yeah, you are, and you do.
Yeah.
But I just wanted, I think more, not for me, I think for other people, I just wanted them to see what it was going to be like. Because I think when you visually see something, you can prepare for it more, rather than knowing that it's happening but not having anything to...
I never thought of it like that. It's quite, it's quite good,
prepare it to. So at least I knew then that people would have a snippet of what I would look like after I come out of hospital. And it was funny because I was there for everybody else then. So while everybody else was like breaking down, I'd be like on the phone talking to everyone and kind of like helping them through it. And then it kind of come nearer and nearer. And I think the nerves set in. I used to have this, I had PTSD really bad. And I used to have this dream about dying.
What do you mean?
So because of the shock of everything, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. And anybody can get that. So when you think of PTSD, I used to think of squaddies. Instantly. That's the people who got PTSD from being in the army, from the things that they've seen. That would be the category of people who would have that. And that's not true. Anybody can have it. So people have developed PTSD on being told that they've got cancer. people can develop PTSD from somebody close to them passing away or getting poorly, anything.
It's not clear
trauma,
that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Any kind of traumatic experience for that person can lead to a PTSD effect.
And what are some of the...
So my symptoms were, I used to feel my skin burning, and I used to put like my arm in front of people's noses and go, "Can you smell it?" And they'd be like, "No." And you could tell they were looking at me thinking, "Fucking hell, what's going on with her?" And they were like, "No, we really can't." And I was like, "I can smell my arm, but I can smell flesh."
Really?
Yeah. And then another one would be, I'd feel it in my face. So whenever I looked at a plug socket, I'd get the feeling. I'd feel it all like there and all in my arm. Nightmares, I'd get really badly.
Like what?
Like dying. So I had this reoccurring nightmare of, and that didn't help with the, when you get nightmares like that, you don't want to go to sleep neither. So that doesn't help with the not sleeping thing, because when you fall asleep and you instantly have a nightmare and you're screaming in bed and Mike's like trying to wake me up and you don't want to then go to sleep. So my dream was...
It's just one after the other.
Yeah, it was. My dream was I was in an operating theatre. I'd flatlined. They were trying to work on me. They couldn't stop me from dying, and I was like on a screen. I was like behind this glass, trying to punch the glass to get to me, to stop it from happening. Right. So when I went to see this psychologist called Phyllis, who is an absolute legend, is Phyllis, I used to tell her about this dream, and she's like, "So you're scared of dying?" And I'm like, "But I wasn't scared when I was getting electrocuted. I didn't think of anything. I didn't think of anything apart from, oh my, I need to get off this." And it was only when we did this exercise where you have to be that third person watching yourself and going back to that moment, because I'd never really gone back to that moment because I'd avoided it.
Fuck that, Phyllis.
So, goddamn Phyllis. So
how's she taking you back? Is she talking? Is she hypnotising you? What's she doing?
So she hypnotised me. So by the time I got to this point, I'd probably been with her for about 4 months before I could even get to the point of...
She's the trauma specialist?
No, she's a different one.
Right.
So she was the person who put everything together. So she put the trauma, the accident, the pain, the amputation, the living with it after, the what I thought about myself, everything together.
So you saw her after the amputation?
Yeah.
Let's go back to the amputation bit, right? Because that's the bit that you've never really talked to me about before.
Right, okay. So I was having this dream. So then I thought that was a premonition to my amputation. So in my head, I was going to die through having that, because in my dreams, this must have been the operation. So as it was getting closer, and I kept saying to Mike, I'm just going to go and do a will. And he was like, "What do you mean you're going to go and do a will?" So I toddled off to the solicitors with my mum and dad, made a will, sat my mum and dad down and said, "Right, if I die, I want Boo to have my engagement ring, I want Holly to have this." And I was literally separating everything. I'd wrote Mike, the kids, a letter for if something happened to me. And I remember kind of Mike thinking, why on earth is she doing all this? But I'm not going to say anything, because obviously she needs to go through the process of whatever. And I think in my head it was such a logical process to think, right, I'm accepting now that if something happens to me, I'm doing everything I can now to make sure my family, my tribe are going to be okay if I'm not there. And then we went in to hospital, and it is literally, you get a letter, right, you'll be in 7:30 in the morning, go to day case unit, can get yourself checked in. And they literally turned around and said to Mike, "Right, well, we'll ring you when she's out theatre." And I was going, no, he needs to stay with me until the minute I go down to theatre. He is not leaving my side. And the professor come in, and I was saying, please don't let me die. And she's going, "Julie, why would I let you die? we've come through all this now. I am not going to let you die. And I was like, yeah, but you've got to cut a main artery, so how are you going to clamp it? And she was just like...
Like she doesn't know what she's doing.
Because that's my job. That's what I do. And actually, an amputation is a really simple procedure.
Really?
So she was like, do you want me to go through the ins and outs of what we're going to do? I was like, yes, please. And Mike was like, Jesus Christ. He was like, God. And then they turned around to Mike and went, well, just give us something to calm her down. And he was like, yeah, please do. And he got me a card, which to this day will stay with me for the rest of my life. And it's funny because he's got me it as a poster in the studio now, and I have it above my desk. And the card was, today's a good day. And he wrote in it, and he was like, this is the start of our lives now. And I just thought, yeah, that is it. That's the start. Today is a good day. So then went down to theatre, woke up. I was in theatre for a long time, so I think they said it was going to be like a couple of hours, and I was there for about 5 hours. So by that time, everyone kind of started losing the shit, really, and thinking, oh God, what's happening? And then I remember waking up in theatre and going, right then, where's Mike? And they were like, are you all right? And I went, I can't feel any pain. Oh my God, I can't feel any pain. Get me a coffee and go and get Mike. And they were like, right, all right then. We'll just go and ring him and get him to come down. And I was like, yeah. And honestly, I was like euphoric.
No pain.
I can remember it, I just didn't feel any pain. And I remember coming round the corner.
How long have you been dealing with pain for at that point?
12 months, solid.
Just solid every single day?
Every single day.
Off your back on pain?
Yeah. And
So it gone like that?
Gone. And I remember him coming around the corner, and they always say that when you have an amputation, there's two times when you can lose it, and that's when you wake up from theatre, and another time is when they take the bandages off. So we come round thinking, geez, I do not know how she's going to be. And he walked round and I had a cup of coffee going, hi. And he was like, you all right, love? And I was like, I can't feel anything. This is amazing. And just, honestly, it was like a massive weight had just gone vroom, like that. And like the doctors were going, I can't, are you all right? You look like you've had like 10 years lifted from you. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then I went to the toilet. I was like, right, I need to go and have a wee. Went to the toilet, and there was a guy in recovery, and he was talking to the nurse. And I remember when we was coming back, him going, oh my God, the poor girl, she's so young to have an amputation. I was like, I'm fine, don't worry about me, I'm great. This is the best day that I've had for 12 months, don't worry about me. And I think everyone was a bit like taken back, really, but unless you've been through the pain, you can never understand what it feels like not to have it, to go from one extreme to the other. And then obviously like saw my mum and dad and stuff, and it was, you know, it was massive, in like these massive like bandages. It had like a big blood drain that was like collecting all blood in its little thing, and it was proper gruesome. But I was dead happy, and I was like, right, this is the start now. Today was a good day, and this is going to be the start of things to come. And then the drip, I had like a drip that the same thing, the paralyse your arm and stuff, and then that started wearing off, and they were like, oh, right, okay, we need to give you some pain meds now. And I was like, no, I don't need that. And they went, what do you mean? And I went, I don't need any meds, I'm fine. And they were like, but you've just had your arm amputated. And I was like, but it isn't as painful as what it was before.
Okay, now.
So I'm all right. I don't need to.
They couldn't even get their heads around how much pain
it's only then that they were like, holy shit, we now understand how much pain you was in. And I remember like different anaesthetists that weren't even part of my case would come, and they were like, have you not taken any medication? I was like, no. And then it was kind of like thinking, right, okay, now's the time for recovery, and now's the time to get stuff sorted now, get my life on track, kind of get a bit of normality with the kids, let me be a mum again. And that did. I kind of got home, trips to the hospital. They took the bandages off, and it was how it was. It was just a massive version of what it is now, because it was dead swollen. And I was fine with that. I can't. Mike's gonna die now when I tell you this. So when they took the bandages off, I said that it looked like a massive penis, and he was like, "Jesus Christ!" And I kind of like was like the queen of inappropriate jokes, because I think it just kind of made everyone laugh. So it just instantly made everyone feel comfortable. Yeah. So the nurse was laughing her head off, I was laughing my head off, Mike was, and it just took the nerves away. And I remember my dad ringing, going, "Oh, love, you okay?" And I went, "Dad, it looks like a massive penis." And he went, "Oh, I wasn't expecting you to say that. I'll put your mum on."
All right, here we go.
He was like, "Yeah, I'm not having that conversation with you. I'll put your mum on." And then it was good. Like Holly struggled.
Yeah.
So she struggled to, scared her.
Yeah.
And I wasn't anticipating that, because I thought I kind of done everything with her. But she didn't like hugging me, and she was worried about what her mates would think. And she was 13. Yeah. That's what kids think about then. And would any of her friends start calling her because I look different?
Yeah.
And what will people think about me? And
because you don't fit into the norm.
Because I don't fit into the norm, yeah. And we dealt with that. And I remember talking to Phyllis about it, and Phyllis was like, that is your normal teenage response. That is what you're going to have. But I wish someone would have shared that. I wish there was someone else that had gone through a similar thing that could have said, "Listen, just be aware that this might happen," because it totally took me, it just knocked me for six, just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And she's, she's totally got over that now. And with the little one, she was really accepting of it. She didn't even question it. It's mummy's stump, and that's it. She doesn't even think it's anything peculiar. It's just mum's stump. And, if someone will say to her at school, like, "Oh, your mum's got no hand," and she's like, "Yeah, she's got a stump." So it just doesn't even enter her head. It entered me more the fact that she wouldn't know me with two hands. That upset me so much. And it's like, well, it doesn't make any difference now, but at the time I was devastated.
So when you're with Phyllis now then,
yeah,
she's doing that bit of hypnotism on you.
Yeah.
What's she doing?
So she's basically helping me now put everything together. So I had a trauma psychologist, and that was very acute, very dealing with pain, shit, what's happening to me now, kind of psychology. When you have an amputation, you then get picked up by the counsellor at the ability place. So that's like dealing with having an amputation, dealing with having no limb. And then Phyllis, for me, was the one that put everything together. So looking back, I think because I didn't put everything together, even though people on the surface of it probably thought I was dealing with it really well, inside I had a lot of demons with it.
You've blocked some stuff away.
Yeah, blocked some stuff away, very harshly critical with myself. And I needed to go right back. And it's, I think what I've found is with anything, with any kind of psychology, unless you get to the root of the problem, you're never ever going to solve it. You've got to go back to the root of the problem, and it's only when you deal with that you can start dealing with everything else. And I had to go back to that day, and to go back to that day was horrible, because it did make me realise that I did think I was going to die, and that obviously then was the traumatic event that kind of built on everything. And then because everything went so badly so quickly in a succession of not being able to process anything really, I'd gone like 14 months of just having one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. And I still think I had that strength of character in me, but there was things going on in my head that I couldn't explain, and they weren't logical, so I couldn't understand what was happening to me. So like the burning, that's not logical. So I was thinking I was going insane, but actually what it is your brain, it's the memory part of your brain and your senses that are they're so heightened that it triggers that memory. So that memory is constantly being triggered in your head. So everything associated with that memory, whether it's smell, touch, feeling, you go back to that point because your brain's not dealt with it and that memory's still being triggered. So you have to go back to all that. And then after I'd had the amputation, I was kind of really good. And then it was really funny. I wasn't expecting it. I looked at myself in the mirror and I just thought, right, okay, in my head, I've not got an arm and that looks a mess. So if I perfect that part of me, that part of me, that part of me, then it'll kind of take away from that being a mess. And that's the kind of thought process that I got. And I started being really hard on the way that I looked. And
Give me some examples of what you mean.
So, like, probably not eating properly, wanting to get, like, in my head, what would be the perfect figure to kind of compensate for that not being there. I was really critical about what people thought of me. If people judged me in the street, I wouldn't come out of the house because I didn't want anyone to kind of target me. I went through a really vulnerable stage. I questioned, like, what was Mike doing with me? Because if we met on that first date years ago, if I had one arm, would he still want to be? It just really irrational thoughts, but I think thoughts that everybody in my position would have. And then I started with fits. So I started I had all those thoughts, but then I started thinking, right, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be kind to myself now. I'm going to start training again. I'm going to do something that I really enjoy doing. That's going to put some endorphins in my body, and I'm going to get back to that. And then me and Mike started to plan getting married. And it was really lovely to have, because we had a focus of
something to look forward to.
Yeah, and it was like so positive and so lovely. And at that point, I was like not at the phase where I wanted to show my stump to anybody. I'd not even put it on social media that I'd had an amputation. So there was only the people that knew me in person knew what was happening. Because I just thought, sod that, I'm not having, like, one, I don't want the pity party that I'd follow. And two, I just didn't want to put myself out there with the risk of people judging me. But then when the wedding got nearer, I think when you focus on something positive, your mindset changes. So I then started to not wear my prosthetic as much. Or my prosthetic was like a bit of it's great for covering it, but practicality of it was a bit of a hindrance because it's just like a cosmetic one, so it doesn't move, it just stays upright. So it's a bit of a pain. So I started wearing that less and less. And then when they were doing my wedding dress, they were making sleeves into it so I could wear my prosthetic. And the day before the wedding, I was like, actually, I'm not having those sleeves in. I'm going to have it strapless. That was the wedding dress that I bought before my accident when we was planning to get married. That's the wedding dress I'm going to have because this is who I am. And I can't change what's happened to me, and I'm certainly not going to hide it. And it was a very big shift in mindset. So we got married. It was lovely. It was great. I didn't have the straps. It was strapless, and that was honestly the one day that I didn't even think about my stump being there. And it was just that wedding day was like just a real appreciation of life and everything that we'd been through. And it was really, really, really nice, really good. And then probably about 3 months after that, I started having fits. So I started, like, they thought I had epilepsy at first. So when they did like the brain scans and stuff and they put me on epilepsy medication, it wasn't working and I was still having it. So I'd have like a mixture of convulsion type fits, which is where you shake, and then other fits, which is where you stare and there's nothing that can happen to you whilst you're in this place of staring. It's like you're not there. And we had to go and see a consultant in Edinburgh, and he confirmed that I had disassociation seizures. And basically, the way he explained it to me was, your body has been under so much stress for such a long period of time, it cannot cope with anymore. So when it feels your anxiety or your stress levels going up, your body shuts off. And when it shuts off, you either fit or you go into this like staring thing. So we had to send in videos and everything for him to confirm that that's what was happening. And then I had to have my licence taken off me. I couldn't train because I'd had like feelings of like I was going to have a fit. And I just really crashed then, because I kind of was like, I've dealt with so much. And at the one point that I thought everything was starting going on that kind of positive directory, it's just crashed again. And now I've lost my independence again, because I can't drive anywhere, and I can't do this, and I can't take the kids there, and I can't do that, and all the other stuff that goes with that kind of negative mindset. And then I remember...
You're still in debt at this point as well?
Yeah. And then I remember thinking, fuck it, I hate myself now. Just hate the way that I look. I hate the way that I'm getting these fits. I can't do anything for myself. I've been through too much. So then I started secret eating.
What does that mean?
Okay, so my secret eating was, and I'm saying it with a smirk on my face now, because it just shows the place that I was in. And I do think any type of eating disorder, whether you're binge eating, you've got anorexia, bulimia, is a form of self-harm. So you have got something inside of you that you're not happy with, and you're trying to hurt yourself. And that's the way that you're doing it. It's just a very unconventional way than cutting yourself. It's more obviously conventional. So because I hated myself, I would eat, and I would eat in a place where no one would see me. So it could be anything and everything and binge, but I would not be sick with it. And it's like I wanted to punish myself. But then I got in a cycle of doing it. So when things weren't going my way, I'd then binge eat, and then I'd think, oh my God, my jeans are getting too tight. I'd cry. I'd go and eat a Mars bar in the utility room, because anything that happened in that utility room didn't count, because no one could see me. It's ridiculous. And then before I knew it, I'd put like 2.5 stone on, felt shit, wasn't training, just felt like I'd not given up on life. I'd just had enough of dealing with the crap that was being thrown at me. And I think there's a very big difference to giving up on life and just just being fed up with what was in that point. And then again, it's that having to be honest with yourself. I mean, my lowest moment with when I was binge eating was when I went into Holly's room, and she had this hexagon Easter egg that she'd been saving for about 6 weeks, because she didn't want to eat it because it looked so pretty, the design on it. And I went and scoffed it, and then had to explain to her that a mum in a flipping secret eating binge had scoffed her Easter egg that she'd been keeping for 6 weeks. And at that point it was like, right, what are you doing? And I remember like saying to Phyllis, right,
does Phyllis know all this?
Yeah. And saying, she didn't know because I didn't tell anyone. And I was saying, right, this is happening to me. I recognise that I am harming myself because I'm not liking the way things are going. I'm in a path of self-destruction, and I recognise now that I need to get myself out of it. So this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think? And she was like, yeah, look, you've recognised what you're doing. You know why you're doing it. You have to change that mentality. You have to change. Because there's got to be a point where you know that it's not doing you any good. So
how do you do it though?
For me, you have to be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So I had to have a long conversation with myself to go, right, okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, why? And it was all rooted to this. But then I had that when I got married and I was okay. What had happened was, when I started having those fits, it was like another thing that had just happened, and it was like another thing where you had to build yourself up. And I think I was just fed up of crashing and then having to build yourself up in the fear of something might crash again. So me and Phyllis used to talk about different strategies. We used to talk about mindfulness a lot and being kind to yourself. And I was very hard on myself.
How did you be kind to yourself?
I had to stop being hard on myself. So I had to stop looking in the mirror and loathing myself. I had to look in the mirror and go, you know, you've got a lot of things that are good in your life. And I used to then list the good things that were in my life. Like, even like the, you know, the things that you don't think of, like, you know, at night I can sit in bed and watch some TV and hug my husband. It's a good thing, you know. I get to see the kids go to school and they're educated. It's a good thing. You know, they've got 2 dogs that are, you know, fill the house with like doggy joy. That's a good thing. And take it right back to the basics of what you have. Not what's happened to you. You don't focus on what's happened to you. You focus on what you have at that moment. And when you start shifting that mentality, that's when everything starts looking different, because you're going out of that negative. This is what's happened to me. This is where I am at this moment. This is all the bad, the bad, the bad, the bad, the bad. And when you reverse that and go, actually, this is what I've got. And yeah, things have been tough. There's worse things that can happen to people. And I'm still here. I'm still living. And I'm not going to waste it now. And I'm not going to punish myself anymore, because I've done enough of that. I couldn't help what happened, but what I can do now is use it, and I will use it to help people. And when I started to think like that, things started becoming better. And it takes a lot to get out of that. You've got to keep practicing it and keep saying things in your head to confirm that reinforcement, because it's easy to, if something doesn't go well, it's easy to go, oh, you know, this is happening. And it's like, right, hang on a minute. What, in reality, what is happening here? Not what you're feeling about a situation. Feelings and reality are totally different. Your feelings are how you're personally reacting to a situation. The situation's a situation. And when you kind of separate the two, you can deal with your feelings after. And that's how I've trained my mind now. And I think because I understand the way your mind works, that helps a lot. So, you know, my sessions with Phyllis have gone from her helping me deal with everything to then me questioning how everything works, and, you know, to help other people that have possibly been in a similar situation or struggling with anything. And that gives me strength now to move forward and to think, actually, I'm not a victim of what's happened to me. I actually think I was probably destined for this to happen to me, to do what I want to do, and I want to help people. And I do think that's part of my life's path. But it's been a hard lesson to learn. And I do think now it's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because it's took me right down to the bare of what's important in life and my perception of what's important in life, and, you know, family, friends, and how quickly life can change. So it's having that appreciation. And it's not about, you know, everyone likes to have materialistic stuff. It's not about materialistic stuff. It's about what makes you you. And we talked before about, you know, what defines you as a person. So many people can get confused with that statement, and I was one of them. So I let my work, my job, define who I am. Well, actually, that's not who I was. What I was is the person inside. That person inside that still, is goofy and laughs is still there. And I've had to just believe now in myself and believe who I am. And that's the definition of me, not what I'm doing as a job, not what I wear, not what shoes, what car I drive. That doesn't define you. That's just nice stuff that you can have.
Powerful, that, mate. That's like fucking blow my mind, that shit, you know. I just, you need to spread this message, don't you?
Yeah.
And it needs to be everybody, and it needs to be in schools, and people suffer because, like, can you imagine how many kids out there standing in front of the mirror and hate themselves?
Yeah, it scares me.
Yeah,
I've got amazing 2 girls, and I've seen it firsthand from social media impacts and how they can look at a person and go, oh my God, I want to be like that, or that person's got that, and it's like, it's not real life, and celebrate who you are. And I always talk to the girls about who they are, not what they are, who are they inside. So be that person that's a little bit different, don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't go and follow everybody else, because everyone bloody looks the same and everything now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But, my journey's been a tough one, and it's been a tough one for people around me to see. And I'm still in pain now. There isn't a day goes by that I haven't got pain. But it's happened, and I deal with it in the way that I deal with it. And you've got to move on, and for me, it has to be my calling to help people. So whether it's, a little girl who's standing in front of the mirror hating herself because she doesn't fit what a social media post says, you have to be perfect, or, whether it's a guy who's struggling, just talking about his emotions, anything, when you've got someone who's willing to listen, or got someone who can even just give a little bit of advice. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not claiming to be. But I've dealt with some pretty dark stuff and understand how to come through it, the other side. And even, when there's dark days, everyone gets them. Even I get them, but it's how you have your strategy around it, and you have your ways of dealing with things. And I think that's a message that's lost with all the materialistic and appearance bullshit.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, isn't there? Yeah. Out of everything that you've been through, what was the time you were just like, this was the worst? Out of all that you've just talked about.
I think definitely when I got the fits, because that put me into a place that I didn't expect to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because I'd gone through it had been so up and down, and I kind of always felt like whenever I kind of got somewhere, something else happened, and then I kind of really got somewhere where I could definitely see a light coming. Yeah. And then when I had that, it just crumbled and went again, and I was questioning whether I had the strength to get up.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, it's just that strength of can I deal with this now again?
I think that's a strong message, mate. I think the fact that, people do think they're back on it and they've got it, and then they go again, and then they think, you know what I mean? You've got to keep showing up.
You have got to keep showing up. And I think that's probably the strongest message, that, life isn't perfect, and nobody is immune to what can happen in life. I say my story now, and I think, my God, I could have read that in a magazine to somebody else, and that's happened to me. It's never on your radar anything like that would happen, and it has. And it is that tenacity to just keep getting up and keep going and keep fighting, but doing it for the right reasons. don't worry about what people think about you. Just be who you are. Be kind to people. It's not, there needs to be more kindness in the world, I think.
So, what are your plans now? What have you got in your head to move Jue Snell forward?
So, currently, obviously, we're with you guys. Do start getting some videos going, some podcasts, building a website, going to schools. Want to go into businesses as well.
Yep.
And try and just get the message out there to as many people as I can who, on social media. So I do get quite a few people messaging me already that have had like CRPS, particularly on how like strategies on coping and but I think it's more around your mindset, because I think once you've got the right mindset, you can do a lot, and you can deal with a lot. Your physical body, I think, can deal with an awful lot. It's whether your mind's in it. That's whether you'll get over whatever hurdles you need to. And if I can pass the message on of that and help as many people as I can, then everything that I've been through has been worth it.
That's it, mate. I know I've heard it before, like it's blew my mind again, like it's just like bits again that you just like, you kind of remember, don't you? You're just like, oh my fucking God, mate. And you just, I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, not again. She's going through it again. And the secret eating thing's just like, you don't expect that.
No.
Do you? No.
I turned into a right F. I said to Mike, why did I look like that? And he was like, oh, I didn't know what you was doing. But that's the thing as well. Like, I was at home all the time with my kids and my husband, and I managed to hide that for quite a while. And it was only when I started realising what I was doing and I started talking about it, Mike was like, hang on a minute.
Oh.
When have you been doing all this? So it just goes to show you how your mental health can affect your behaviour. You don't know what's going on, do you,
with people?
No.
You could be right next to that person, you don't know.
And it's, people with me, I get it in the street, I've got a very obvious disability, and people will react how they are, but again, it's how I am in my head, is how I deal with that and process that. So when I'm feeling vulnerable, when I'm feeling mentally not strong, I will see everybody looking at my stump. I will see people talking about it. I'll see the little judgment looks. When I'm not worrying about it, I don't see anybody.
Mindset.
Because it is, because you're not looking for it. And people will be people. You have to understand that and be compassionate to them as well, because it's not something that you see every day. But everything is based on mindset.
If there's anybody struggling with mindset, or they've been through, or they can sort of think about, look, I'm going through some of the things they're going through, how can they get in touch with you?
Contact me on social media. Email me on...
What are you on social media?
Jue Snell.
Jue
Snell. There we go.
Right
there.
Jue, thanks for coming on, mate.
Thank you.
I just want to spread this fucking amazing message you've got. Got to think about some of the partners that I've gone on board, getting in touch with them, because they've got some really good contacts in schools and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to do the photo shoot video, we're going to get the website up.
Yes.
You're thinking about writing a book.
Yeah.
You're doing loads of blogs.
I am.
We'll get the right PR agency involved. That's it.
Brill.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye.